and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jody, and on my channel I talk about Broadway and I talk about books. And in today's video I'll be continuing my Broadway show series where I talk about every Broadway show I ever saw over the 20 years I was seeing Broadway shows on a regular basis. So as per usual with the series on my channel, I will go over who was in the cast in my performance, who was on the creative team, how I liked the show, any favorite songs and moments I have in the show, and anything interesting in the playbill. So without any further ado, let's get on to today's show. But before I get on to today's show, I just wanted to wish you all a happy early Valentine's Day. I'm celebrating the holiday early, wearing my Heart Valentine's Day sweatshirt, wearing a few of my heart rings, and I just thought I'd celebrate the holiday early because why not? So now let's get on to today's show. So today I'll be talking about the 24th Broadway show I ever saw, which is a musical. Whether you like Broadway or you don't, it's a show you've heard of, and that would be the Phantom of the Opera. So I did end up seeing the Phantom of the Opera a total of 3 times on Broadway before it closed. But today I'll just be talking about my first time seeing the show, which, like I said, was my 24th Broadway show. So I saw the show for the first time in August 2002 on a bus trip at the Majestic Theater. So now let's get on into what is in the playbill. Here's a page that lists the credits of everyone involved in this particular production of the show. And then this is a production photo of Phantom, who is played at this moment in time by Howard McGillin, and I just thought I'd share that because it's something that not every playbill has, which is a production photo. And I like that. So I thought I'd share it. And then I'll just get now on to the headshots of all the performers in this production. Everyone's on the same page. You have the leads, supporting cast members, along with the chorus, standbys, and understudies. And next up, I will show the cast list and the page that also lists the understudies as well. So next up, I'll go over some of the performers in the cast who I recognize their names from seeing them in other shows since my time seeing this show. And yeah, that's what I'll be talking about now. So Howard McGillin, I did see him play the Phantom when I saw Phantom of the Opera this time. I did see the Phantom of the Opera 3 times, like I said. I can't remember if I don't think I saw him every single time. I know I saw Hugh Pinero once. So I either saw Howard McGillin twice in Phantom or Hugh Pinero. But I guess I'll find that out when I talk about my next time seeing Phantom of the Opera. But yeah, he's done a lot of Broadway theater, and I think I have seen him in one other Broadway show besides Phantom, but I guess I'll find that out when I talk about all the other shows that I've seen. The other name that I recognize is Aaron Lazar. I can't remember if I've actually seen Aaron Lazar in a Broadway show, but I know that he was a part of the 2007 Broadway revival production of Les Mis, which is a show I did get to see. I don't remember if he was in the original cast or he was part of the replacement cast. So I can't remember if I've seen him in that show, but I know he was also a part of the closing cast of Mamma Mia, which I didn't see Mamma Mia towards the end of its run, but I know he was a part of that. But he's done a lot of Broadway and theater, and obviously because of that, I recognize his name. So now I'll just get on to the creative team. So, yeah. So obviously, you know, this is an Andrew Lloyd Webber production, as I like to say, because the Phantom of the Opera. Andrew Lloyd Webber wrote the music, Charles Hart wrote the lyrics, and there was additional lyrics by Richard Stilgoe, and then Harold Prince directed the production. And Harold Prince is just he was an absolutely amazing director. He directed, I think, possibly almost every Stephen Sondheim production. Just an amazing director. Did an absolutely fantastic job with the direction of the show. And yeah, now I'll get on to, you know, how I like the show. You might be wondering, how did you like this show, Jody? I talk in third person sometimes. What can I say? Yeah, I absolutely loved the Phantom of the Opera. Clearly, I saw it 3 times, so I wanted to see it again and again and again. But yeah, it's a great show. I absolutely love the story. I love the songs. You know, it had a great set design, lighting design. The costumes were wonderful. The performances were wonderful. The direction, like I said, was wonderful. And it's kind of like a show that you kind of just, it's like an iconic Broadway show. You kind of just remember it after you see it. And obviously I can't talk about the Phantom of the Opera and not mention the chandelier, as it is very much another character in the show. And what I have to say about the Chandeliers, I saw the show 3 times. The first 2 times were in the orchestra. The last time was in the front mezzanine, and I have to say, my personal opinion is you don't get that full effect of that moment where the chandelier is rising to the top of the theater and then falling down. If you're not sitting somewhat close-ish to the stage. Because I have to say, I didn't really, love the last time I saw the show because I wasn't sitting close-ish to the stage, and I feel like that moment just didn't have as much of an impact. It just has more of an impact if you're sitting closer to the stage, and it's just like such a moment in a Broadway show. It's like iconic, and I had to mention it because it's like another character in the show. Um, Before I get to my favorite musical numbers and moments in the show, I'll just say that like this show closed on Broadway in April 2023, last spring, and you know, you know, it's it was a show. I was just surprised to hear it was closing. I'm sure as many of you out there were surprised as well. Um, it was just such a staple, in the theater district in Times Square in New York on Broadway, and it was just like it was just something you thought would always be there, a show that you thought would always be there. So it was like just really surprising that that day came where the show announced it was closing. And that being said, not every Broadway show gets to have as long of a run on Broadway as the Phantom of the Opera did, so that itself is really special. And then because it had such a long run, so many people got to see the show and experience it live in person on stage. And, that's just truly wonderful and special as well, because not every show gets to experience that. So, I mean, that being said, it's still very sad, that this show is no longer on Broadway, but, sometimes shows close, and I guess, that happened. So now I'll get on to my favorite musical numbers in the show. And here's a page that lists all the musical numbers for Act 1 and Act 2. And I'll just now mention the ones that stand out to me, that I remember, and that I really like. You had Think of Me, Angel of Music, The Phantom of the Opera, obviously. Music of the Night, All I Ask of You, Masquerade, Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again, The Point of No Return. So these are some of my favorite songs, and if you're not familiar with Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals, his shows very much go from like song to song. There is a book and there is some dialogue in the show, but it's very much a score driven based show. It very much goes from song to song. So even the moments when someone might talk in this show, they would sing that moment, if that makes sense. But yeah, really great score, obviously. I have two favorite moments in particular, and that's when the Phantom and Christine sing the Phantom of the Opera. They're on like this boat, it's nighttime, they're near a bridge, and I think it's like really cold. It's supposed to be really cold in this moment in the show because there's like fog all around the stage. It's very mysterious, it's very atmospheric, it's very like scary a little bit, but it's just like a moment that you just don't forget after you see that show. It's just really theatrical, and I really love it. And the next moment I really like is Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again. That's a number that Christine sings. It's one of her solo numbers. And, Phantom of the Opera, it's some of it's like very like rock and roll, not rock and roll, but like the tone is a bit like intense and like dramatic and like theatrical. And like, I think there's some moments that have like a rock bass like melody, if you will, perhaps. But yeah, there's also moments that have like really touching, beautiful ballads, and this is one of those moments in that show, and it's probably my favorite ballad that's ever been sung on the Broadway stage. It's just it's a moment I remember. So, you remember it's Christine just like singing, and she's outside and there's snow falling down around her. She's by a gravesite. It's like a really like touching moment in the show, and it's just one I never forgot. And so now I'll just get on to what's in the playbill. There's not a lot in this playbill, so this part shouldn't be that long. Like I said, so I showed in August of 2002, like it says right there. And yeah, like this playbill doesn't have a lot. I'll just share one thing that I thought was worth mentioning. Years ago in Times Square, around mid-September on a Sunday, there would be about for a decade or so, there was this huge Broadway event called Broadway and Broadway, where there would be every Broadway musical would perform like a number from their show live in Times Square on a huge stage. And yeah, this thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people would show up to this. I never actually went to this event in person. I probably would be too overwhelmed because like so many people would show up to this. But for a few years, NBC did broadcast the event live. Well, they taped it live and they showed it like a few days later. But so I did get to see the event in some kind of way. But there was one year where I went to see a show on a Saturday matinee, and I did see the stage had been set up at that point. So that was enough for me because too many people in one place at the same time. I could never. I would be too overwhelmed. But yeah, that there's a little article in here about that. Broadway on Broadway, moment in time. And then I'll just talk about the next Broadway show I'll be talking about. I made it to my 25th Broadway show, and that will be, it's right there, Thoroughly Modern Millie. So yeah, that's the next show I'll be talking about. And if you've made it to this, I can't talk sometimes, you know, I talk over myself. You can tell I don't know how to edit my videos because I left that moment in the video. But yeah, if you made it to this point of the video, where I talked about my, thank you so very much for watching. Thank you so very much for watching, where I talked about the 24th Broadway show I ever saw, which was my first time seeing Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. So, as always, thank you so very much for watching, and until next time, bye.